With God, 1,000 years are as one day, and one day is as 1,000 years. You've heard that quoted many times, I'm sure. But not for us. For us, time drags, doesn't it? We don't like waiting, either in the checkout line or for the end of the school year or for whatever it is. We don't like to wait. We are people who like things done quickly. That second reading, the letter to the Hebrews, was written to a group of Christians who were awaiting, as we all are, the second coming of Christ, his return. I will come back, I will take you with me, and where I am, you also will be. And they were about the year 80, and they were getting tired of waiting. We're still waiting for the Lord's return. Slowly, he promised, the kingdom of God will take over the God's world. So how do we handle this waiting period? How do we prepare ourselves, even though time seems to drag on, for the second coming of the Lord, which is what all these readings were about today? Well, the first thing we have to do in the meantime is to be faithful. That's what the first reading was about. Abraham was given an absurd promise, and he trusted God. Faithfulness means trusting in what God tells us, that it's going to be true, that it is true, that it will happen. Hang in there, in other words, we would say. Hang in and trust that the person who spoke to you is telling you the truth. And the second qualification for us who are in this period of waiting is to be vigilant, to keep vigil, to be on the lookout, to see things. Sometimes we get so beclouded by our own selfishness and by the things that are happening in our world that we don't see the kingdom of God being built even now among us and through us and by us. Don't look for these signs so much in the daily press, because they have a tendency there to give you all the negatives. Look in the lives of the people you live with, you work with, you play with. It's in the lives of others that we begin to see the progress of the kingdom of God. God's will being done, God's way being lived. We see it in the face of other people, provided we are vigilant enough and expecting enough to see it there. So we get so pessimistic, we get so down because we want quick results. But it's happening. I mean, there are faces that just shine out to us, like Teresa of Calcutta. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. But people like that are all over the world without the notoriety. Be faithful, trust. Be vigilant. See what's there. And finally, be prepared. How do you prepare yourself for the coming of the kingdom of God? How do you prepare yourself to see the kingdom of God being built even now among us, in our own town, in our own area? How do we prepare ourselves to see the face of God in other people? There's only one way to do that, and that is to be so familiar with the face of Christ that you will recognize him anywhere he is. And how do you become so familiar with the face of Christ? By entering daily into an experience of Christ, which we call prayer. However you do it, however you can do it, especially prayer which lets Christ speak to us, scriptural prayer, reading the Bible and responding that way, that's prayer. Because if we cannot enter into the presence of God in our daily experiences, how are we ever going to enter into the presence of God when Jesus returns? Which is what the gospel was all about. Being ready when the master comes to the wedding banquet. Back in Advent, we always have readings about being prepared, being alert for the kingdom of God. And of course, we're thinking there especially of the return of Christ at the end of the ages and the coming of Christ in the feast of Christmas. Be alert. Last Advent, after I preached on that, somebody gave me a t-shirt, a black t-shirt, which said, "Be alert. The world needs more alerts." And if we're not those alerts, who is?